Well, welcome everyone. Ron Gerber here from Angeli. I'm so excited to get Vice Chairman Echols, who works for the state of Georgia. He's the Vice Chairman of their Public Service Commission. Georgia has emerged as the leading state in this whole world of clean energy. I see that firsthand with firms like Q-Cells and Hyundai investing literally tens of billions of dollars in building new factories, which is establishing the state as one of the de facto leaders in this clean energy revolution. So for those of you in Georgia who would like to get insights into what the state is doing to accelerate EVs, to accelerate solar, Vice Chairman Echols is affectionately known as the solar champion in the entire state because of his history. So Vice Chairman, maybe you start with a little bit of your background and trace the evolution of clean energy developments within the state.
Sure. Georgia, I don't know that we will ever catch California in terms of everything that we've done. So there's so much that California has kind of pioneered, and we certainly are running hard to try to catch them, but there's so many people there, and frankly, their deployment and investment in the clean energy space is unprecedented in the U.S. However, in Georgia, really since 2012, we have really, over the last 11 years, just continued to add more and more utility scale solar. And it's really the utility scale solar that's allowed us to catch up, to run really fast, if you will, as opposed to doing it rooftop by rooftop. I have just 8 panels on my home, but there may be 1 million panels in that solar field just over in this rural county. So what we've done in Georgia is we've gone south in our state to flat land, cheap land, and land that's in proximity to substations. And that's really been the secret sauce for us. And from a financial protection scenario, we said to the utility, we don't want to pay above the avoided cost of energy for utility scale solar. That means that solar is as cheap as coal or natural gas or even nuclear energy here in our state. And that's allowed us to grow it in an unsubsidized manner.
Okay.
And that's made a lot of folks in Georgia happy. A lot of Republicans, frankly, a lot of misers, a lot of people that had looked at other states that had done subsidies and they were disappointed and didn't want us going down that path. So it's with that kind of ingredients, cheap land, flat land, proximity to substation, and a price cap that we've been able to grow Georgia to be 4th in the nation by 2024 with solar.
And part of that too, I imagine, is you work with utilities, and I just want to confirm this is all part of the PSC's jurisdiction. It's also important to build a transmission infrastructure when you take advantage of the rural, relatively cheap land where you can put in lots of panels to then distribute that power to larger metropolitan areas like Atlanta.
Back in the day, before the 1990s, states, the utilities determined what they did, and they made those decisions autonomously. And it wasn't until the integrated resource planning movement kind of swept America that a new compact was created. That compact between a state agency like the Public Utility Commission or the Public Service Commission and the utility. The utility now can be pre-approved to build things, knowing they're going to get full recovery on all prudently incurred expenses. And then the state, by guaranteeing that, has a say in what happens. And so our agency, the Public Service Commission, can stop the utility from doing something or compel them to do something. Obviously, you want them coming along with you. They didn't want to do solar in 2012. We made them do it. But they've caught up. They've learned. They've made money on it. And it's been very successful, not only for landowners, for developers from California and other places, but also for the utility and ultimately for the ratepayer who's not paying a subsidized solar rate here in Georgia.
It sounds like this is the classic definition of a successful public-private partnership. No unnecessary usage of taxpayer monies, working cooperatively make this happen. Maybe you could comment, I know you're going out to California next month. maybe you can comment on beyond solar, the next evolution or EVs, some of the work you're doing with utilities to ensure they could support the growing demands of EVs that are rapidly going to be on the Georgian highways and parking lots.
Frankly, all of us in the regulatory world and who care about electric vehicles should be very concerned about what's going on in the U.S. right now. And I think the Super Bowl ads for this 2023 Super Bowl shows you the challenge that EVs are having. You looked at a Dodge Ram commercial that basically acknowledged all the problems that EVs were having. You had an anti-Tesla autonomous driving commercial, and really you only had 2 positive ads for EVs this year compared to 8 in the previous Super Bowl in 2022. And I think when a company like Kia that's changed their entire logo and slogan for EVs in the future, when their one Super Bowl ad is for their Telluride V8, V6, the biggest vehicle, the biggest gas guzzler vehicle that they have. So they made the decision to spend the money there instead of on their electric brand. I think what it says is that EVs are having a difficult time coming to the marketplace and getting the adoption maybe that everybody thought. And I think part of it is a bad customer experience that non-Tesla drivers are having. I'm going to take Tesla out of this because they've got their own supercharging network that's proprietary that no one else can plug into. And so it's given Tesla drivers a better, more confident experience. But if you're driving a Mercedes or a BMW or a Nissan Leaf or a Chevrolet or any of the other cars that have a plug, the charger you pull up to may or may not be working. It may be broken. It may have a bag over it. And that causes you to be angry, to feel like, next time I'm just going to get a hybrid, or maybe we shouldn't have got this car. And that kind of slow adoption and professionalism with a charging network and an experience with customer satisfaction is a problem. And it's something that we really need to fix, especially with all of this NEVI money coming from the federal government. I was just recently with the folks responsible for that at the National Utility Regulators Conference, and I asked them about who's going to audit the 97% uptime that these chargers are required to have. Who's going to be driving to them on a daily basis to test them? Who's going to be penalizing the people that are running them for not having the 97% uptime? And their response was chilling. It was, well, we don't really have the staff to do any of that. And
Wow.
and that's going to be a problem because now you're going to spend billions of federal dollars and you're not going to be able to audit or police these things the way that they need to be done.
So, that is a big challenge. I know I've got 3 EVs. My family and I are probably the early adopters. And we know when we take long trips, we look forward to the time where EV charging is as ubiquitous as gas stations. And I'm assuming that's one of the key things that you're looking at achieving in your future roles.
Yeah, certainly most people charge at home. That's the cheapest place to charge. I mean, it could be that we wind up with a system in America where families that have 2 cars have one EV that they use locally, and then another vehicle like the Telluride that we saw advertised for trips to see Granny or business trip out of the state. And so that EVs are preferenced in urban areas where there's plenty of charging and there's no concern about range anxiety or anything else. Yeah. And that the long trips are left for that second family car that doesn't have an issue with range.
Got it. Well, I can tell you firsthand that at least with my Hyundai, which is part of the same corporate entity that owns Kia, I'm quite pleased that their charging is very fast. And imagine once they complete their facility in Georgia in a few years, it'll even be faster. So does regulating the charging infrastructure, is that part of the PSC, or do you work cooperatively with other jurisdictions? I'm wondering, you may get all these federal dollars, but in the state of Georgia, people are trying to drive from Atlanta to the coast, or to go to Savannah, and the chargers aren't working. Is that part of your regulatory domain, or is that a concern for the states, that with all this money coming in, what happens if our residents here don't get that 97% uptime?
One of the things that I've pushed forward with Georgia Power, our utility, is providing them over the next 3 years with $53 million in make-ready money for Georgia Power customers to install chargers at their facilities. So these would not be the NEVI facilities, but let's say a gas station, a Ford dealership, a restaurant, an office building, all of the infrastructure needed to enable that fast charger to work, the utility pole, the transformer, the wires, even any kind of work in the ground, that can be paid for now by the utility with no charge to the customer. This is a tremendous blessing if you're in a place where your transformer's maxed out and you can't add a DC fast charger or two because there's simply not room to do that. Now you're going to be able to do that here in Georgia, and that's going to really enhance charging in cities, in counties, not along the highway necessarily, but everywhere else, and certainly will give. It's going to give companies like, say, Chick-fil-A or Coca-Cola, UPS. It's going to give these companies an opportunity to build more charging and to encourage their own employees to purchase an EV and be able to charge at work and at home.
Well, I think it may tie in when we want to summarize this. One of the concerns when I spoke to people at, say, PG&E on the West Coast, there are concerns about not having enough power, literally in California, to support all these EV charging at the same time. There were literally texts going out saying, wait till tonight before you charge EVs. I would imagine that when you take advantage of all the rural land in Georgia that basically enables the Georgia Powers of the world to dramatically increase the amount of energy they can generate through clean renewable sources, that's going to tie into these initiatives that you spoke about, which is expanding the EV charging and enable them to handle much higher loads, even during peak hours.
A lot of states are closing dispatchable power plants, coal certainly, and natural gas in many instances, and they're not building nuclear plants. Georgia's the only state in America building a nuclear plant.
Okay.
So we have doubled down on adding natural gas plants because I've felt like that you can't create a system where you've got 20% EVs in America or 50% EVs in America and close dispatchable power plants. You can't do both.
You need a reasonable energy transition strategy.
There's going to be a need for more power. We've got a 26.5% reserve margin in the winter, for example. That's a lot of extra power, and you don't need it every day, but when you need it, you need it. And we don't send out text messages to people asking them not to charge, not to run their air condition, because we have plenty of reserve margin. That is a financial decision that I make along with my colleagues to ensure reliability. We're not taking any chances. In Georgia, we're very reliability centric. There are some states that are carbon centric. They base everything on, oh, wow, we've got to reduce carbon. Our priorities are reliability first, price second, and then the carbon third. And so that's a decision that we've made in Georgia. And what it has created is an influx of businesses that are coming here who desire reliable power, that don't get those text messages that they need to tail their business.
Got it. Yeah. And again, it's the thoughtful public partner privateship, no unnecessary use of taxpayer dollars, that still enables you to have Hyundai build a factory, for you to build all these huge solar farms over the last 10 years. Just to conclude this, so I want to put myself in the mindset of someone watching this video. They're going, maybe I work for a city or county, a local government agency, maybe I work for a major employer. What are the next steps I should do? Do I call the PSC? What are the steps I can do to take advantage of statewide programs to help me, let's say, either A, put in place my own EV charging, or B, offer incentives that might go beyond the federal. But I'm more interested in what should I do if I want to, at all my Home Depots, put in more EV charging infrastructure.
Certainly the make-ready money, the $53.7 million that I created with a motion back at the end of last year, is allowed for cities. So take, for example, the city of Decatur, just about 8 miles to my east from here in my office at the Capitol. They applied for that, and they're getting some of that, as well as their county, DeKalb County, putting in hundreds of EV chargers with the utility paying all of the infrastructure costs. They were quick to get out. Other cities, my advice is don't drag your feet. Come up with a path for EV readiness for your community. Create a master plan. Go to the utility, who has a very much a vested interest in you using electricity more. Go to them and ask them to help you design that master plan. And then at the commission, we're going to continue to provide funds to the utility to be able to grow this network in a responsible and reasonable way.
So the pathway then for at least these city, county, local government agencies, work with the Georgia Powers or whatever applicable, let's say a co-op, rural cooperative that might be providing them with power, put together a joint plan, get approval from the PSC, hopefully get some funding as well, and then use that to implement EV charging for the government. And then the government agencies can almost use this as a revenue source as well, in terms of charging citizens or providing whatever financial arrangements they want. Is that a fair summary?
There are so many incentives from what we've compelled the power company to do to the bipartisan infrastructure deal that was done, the IRA that was done. Some cities have unique opportunities for their citizens or for their businesses. You just need to explore this, and not just in an internet search. You need to call me. I can tell you about your particular city, your particular EMC, and what incentives they might have. You just need to go beyond simply an internet search, and you need to talk to someone that knows what they're talking about. I've had 6 EVs. I'm the creator of the Clean Energy Roadshow. I run the EV Brain Trust. I run, along with Senator Ossoff, the Hydrogen Energy Brain Trust. I mean, I think about this stuff every day, and I'm more than happy to have folks email me at tim@timechols.com, hit me up on Twitter, and I'm more than happy to spend 30 minutes advising you.
Excellent. Hopefully this brief conversation will stimulate the interest. And the same will apply not only to the cities you mentioned, but private sector employers. There are similar, albeit slightly different programs that they can take advantage of. Is that correct as well, Vice Chairman?
Yeah, so private sector companies, many of them have ESG goals, and they're very anxious to do this. But they also want their employees participating. They don't want to build 100 chargers if there's only 2 cars in the parking lot. So one of the things you can do is just talk to your company and say, hey, I'm considering getting an EV, or I'm considering solar. Do you have any special incentives for us as employees if we do this? For example, Cox Enterprise, a while back, for their California employees, they finance solar on their house. Right. Yeah. So here's a company, an Atlanta-based company, actually, paying the capital costs and financing this for a California employee that might work for Cox Cable or Manheim Auctions or some other division of Cox, even in California.
That's great. Well, Vice Chairman, thank you very much for these insights. We hope that everyone in Georgia, or maybe if you're thinking of moving to Georgia, this is a pretty good, compelling reason why, either on a personal level or for your company, you might want to consider moving to the great state of Georgia. And we appreciate your time. We encourage everyone to take advantage of what the PSC is doing. And I wish you all the best, and have a great learning experience out in California.
Thank you.